That's really beautiful. And so I've, that kind of follow-up question. So like as we talk about like our primal, instincts and our primal reactions, I just like go right to like animals. They're very primal, and I'm I won't say all animals because I don't really know what level of consciousness some animals are at. They're pretty far out. But it seems like that for them, that the main thing is survival. And so like I was reading some Eckhart Tolle, that was one of my favorite teachers, and he was talking about animals being in unconscious oneness with the world. And I was like, wow, that's such a good point. They don't like overconsume the that they don't fight just to fight. They don't get angry at one another just because they looked at someone the wrong way or is wearing a certain color. But they're like in unconscious oneness, and like if the, there's like a storm coming or something, they just can sense it and they make the adjustment. But they aren't thinking about it, and they aren't like, hey, there's this storm. Should we go? What are the pros and cons here? It's just they just do it. And then so us, for some reason, humans, when we're unconscious, we're completely out of alignment of everything, and we like destroy each other and the earth. And so I'm kind of like wondering to you, what does it mean to be a conscious participant in the world, going from unconscious participants to conscious participant, which is like conscious oneness?
That is such a juicy question. My whole body started to truly, I could see the light of the body activate. I
Hmm.
love that question. I love what you're working on, and I love what you're reading about. Ooh, to be a conscious participant in the cyclic nature of life. That is a lot of what I have been studying as of late and what I teach as of late is returning to the knowing of the cyclic nature of life, seasonality, being more intuitive in all we do, because our this intricate body that I live in, this majorly amazing interactive supercomputer that I house my soul through, is such a magnificent source for knowledge. It always tells me what I need and when I need it. It's whether or not I listen.
Hmm.
So for me to be a conscious oneness with nature means I, I stop listening to, not stop completely, but I stop listening to the external to hear the internal first. Then I take stock with the external and decide what I subscribe to and what I don't. And a good example of that, juicy, here's the juicy one, birth, the conscious act of birth. Think about how animals give birth. They aren't like, hey, let's go in and prep you on a table and tell you what to do with your legs and drill you with this epidural. And they don't do that. They actively allow for the body to tell them when it's time for this passage to happen, when it's time for this moment to take place. They know exactly what to do with their bodies. They know exactly how to hold and be in position with their bodies for the most natural and non-confrontational point of birth. So I think that we as humans tend to live in a data-filled world with a lot of information and a lot of stuff coming at us all the time.
Hmm.
But there is no more and no deeper knowledge than from the supercomputer of us, the system in which we live, that houses the most relevant of that information, the most relevant of that data. So for me, when I want to become more conscious in all that I do, I have to get in touch with my body. And one of the things that I really struggled with throughout my life was being out of my body experience as a survival mechanism, not being in tune with my body, not feeling in it, not allowing for it to talk to me because it felt safer if it didn't. But that wasn't even true. It was just one of those things I had to heal through. So allowing for my body, my supercomputer, to give me the download, to tell me what's going on, required me to do a lot of preparation to become conscious within it. Not conscious of the mind, conscious of the heart, conscious of the soul. I mean, physically connected to the sensations within my system. When someone said a word, how did that translate to the language of my body? How did it translate to the language of my muscles? How did it translate to the language of my jaw? Was it clenching? Was I tightening? Was my stomach gripping? Or was I feeling something else? So when you spoke earlier and I said, my body responded with lights, I saw all these beautiful little lights just twinkling and shining and sparkling as you were speaking, because it really activated something within my superpower, or not my superpower, my supercomputer, which is a
Same
superpower.
thing.
Yeah, same, it's same thing. It's the same thing. So it activated something within me, but had I not done the work to allow for the channels of communication between my mind and my physical body to open, I wouldn't have been able to receive or understand that information. So I think the first thing and the most important thing is just to allow for the channel of communication between the head and the heart, the head and the physical body to open and to come into this expansive awareness of the physical sensation within the system. Because it's always talking. Just because it's not an audible language doesn't mean it's not a language. The languages are vast. We know that. So what wants to speak to me today? And that's how I address it.
I love that so much. And it was kind of making more sense to me as you were talking about saying yes. I was thinking, oh, yo, because I connect with that too. But as you were talking, it was clarifying with me. It's like, oh, it's an inner yes. Because there's always an inner yes. It's always like, can I listen to what's happening inside? And that might be like at first an outer no, inner yes, inner yes. And then we'll see. Maybe it's an outer yes after that. Maybe it's an outer no after that. But always, yeah, inside, that can I join with what's happening, listen to it, let that guide me.
Oh, I love that you said that the initial outer no, to get clear on the proper inner yes. Because when something doesn't align, this is one of the tricks and tips for understanding how to really work with that intuitive hit, because there is that external influence that can come in, and there can be demands or asks or projections that are put onto us that our instincts are like immediate no. It doesn't it doesn't mean it's a full all the way. It just means there's a hard no in the presentation or the form in which it takes in that moment. And it's our job to then say, okay, let me sit with that to understand what is bringing that up, because there may be the yes within, just not the yes that way. The yes isn't that way. The yes is this way. So we have to ebb and flow with ourselves in order to really understand where our full yeses are. And they start from that internal awareness of whether it's a yes or a no. And I don't know if you guys study human design and the gene keys, but whether you do or not, there's a component of inner authority. We all have it. And it's a place and space within the physical system where we go to confirm that inner yes. It's, you ask yourself a question and your body will respond. It's a beautiful system. We have a very intricate, beautiful system, and it is that simple. It is that simple. We complicate it, sure, but it's complicated because there's a complicated world in front of us that that we have to navigate. And I think that that's what makes us all so brilliant, is that we are constantly, no matter what your path, no matter what your journey, no matter what your story, no matter what your hurdles have been, that's what makes you brilliant, is that you are standing in the face of many external components and thousands of data points. And your role is to respond in a way that is supportive to what your inner guidance is telling you. That's it. You're your own navigator. You are your own navigator.